Okay. And when it comes to brain health, you think the benefits are all related to mitochondria, or are there any
I think
other?
it's partly, as you just mentioned as a psychiatrist, there are some MAO inhibitor type of benefits with it. And so my patients that have been using it, I mean, one of the precautions we talk about is using it with SSRIs or something that causes serotonin syndrome. We have a board certified psychiatrist that works with us who feels unless you're on massive doses of those, you're not going to see the serotonin syndrome because we always talk about it, but
Mhm,
nobody's very, you probably never saw it in your career because we
mhm.
always talk about it, but nobody's ever seen a serotonin syndrome. But it acts like an MAO inhibitor, opening up that part of the brain to help with depression and anxiety. So we're seeing that effect on patients. Not only is the brain fog going, their anxiety's down, they're feeling better. And that's what a lot of people's anxiety is, that they don't think they're ever going to feel better after COVID, or they're anxious because they're not feeling better because they have no energy. And if we can put the energy into their bodies through the mitochondria, they're going to feel like, hey, it's worth living and kicking around.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, there are a lot of brain disorders, including dementia and traumatic brain injury. And, besides the mental health issues, what have
Right.
you seen when it comes to neurodegenerative issues?
Well, we've seen with the traumatic brain injuries, again, remember in the ICUs, they were all traumatic brain injuries, whether it was a stroke, whether it was a cardiovascular accident. So we're finding that same benefits. And Dan can say his experience with it, but with the people with TBIs, it's really been helping them. We have a variation of it for some severe TBIs, but I think we're seeing a lot of benefits. Again, repairing all those mitochondria in the brain and helping stop anxiety and repairing the brain. But the TBI stuff is just phenomenal how well it's working for it.
Hmm.
Absolutely. When we look at that, you get when we have traumatic brain injury or we have something happen, we have a lot of inflammation in the brain. We've got mitochondrial dysfunction. We talked about mitochondria, but when it's in dysfunction and not working properly or shuts down and gets that inflammation, things just build up and get worse and worse and worse. So when we can actually, with the methylene blue, we can actually oxygenate at a cellular level and bring more oxygen to the brain, become more of a neuroprotectant and be able to let it do its job in the brain where we're getting the neurotransmission that it should happen. Great things happen. People are feeling a lot better. They're able to have their memory recall, better energy, of course. So interestingly enough, the brain actually takes at rest over 20% of our oxygen and our ATP production. And so a lot of times people like, I feel that fog, right? It's because most of that energy is going to the brain. They just don't have the body energy to get up and go and do things. And people say, oh, you're just lazy. Just get up and do something. They literally don't have that energy. It's not their fault. It's because the mitochondria is in dysfunction. And as Dr. Warren talked about, that's our energy production. And if that energy production is just going to, the brain only, we just don't have that body energy that we need to do things. And so by taking that, it really helps everything, not only in the brain function, but in energy in the body. And when your body starts feeling better, our brain feels better, and we just feel much better total health.
Hmm. So cognition, of course, is a serious concern for a lot of people, well, for probably everybody.
Everybody.
Have you guys seen anecdotally what happens when a person has memory decline or early dementia, if they've gotten any benefit from this?
At least in my practice, I've done early dementia. We've done some younger kids, first of all. Well, I'll tell you two other things that's interesting, and that's it's younger kids. We've seen some real improvements with kids that might have some, difficulties in learning and functioning. We've also, personally, I've taken 20 people off Adderall, and we find that just the patients that start taking that have been on Adderall said, "Hey, we don't get the letdown. Our brains function good. We can get everything done." I had a gentleman who's a big executive of a marketing company ask me a few weeks ago. He said, "What do you want to write an article on for a magazine?" And I said, "Well, how about methylene blue?" And he said, "Oh, that sounds boring." I said, "Well, give it a try, and I'll talk to you in a week." I call him in a week and I said, "So what do you think?" He says, "My staff wants to know why all my projects are done, why my desk is cleared, and I showed up to all the meetings on time.
Oh my God.
Let's do the article on methylene blue to be more efficient." So we're finding it with patients who've been on Adderall or Vyvanse or Ritalin, whether they're teenagers or any age that have attention deficit, it seems to help them pull everything together without all the letdowns of a medication. Because when you take Adderall and it wears out, how bad you feel. And there's no letdown with the methylene blue. So it's replacing Adderall in a lot of patients or Vyvanse or Ritalin. And that's what I really like about it. So we're helping the younger kids, we're helping those with ADD and the early dementias. They're able to function better because it's helping produce better glutathione in the cells. It's getting rid of the toxins. And I've seen some improvements in our patients with early dementia. So I think whether it's the young kids to the older people, it's making a big difference. We even had, Dan can say, we had some lady call us up who was using it for her baby, and she was breastfeeding. Her breast milk was a little blue, but the baby's thrush went away and the baby started feeling better. So who knows? But we haven't done any studies in that arena, but we know it's safe for everybody. But I'll tell you, if we could get people off of, as you know, as a psychiatrist, off of Ritalin or any of those stimulants, boy, we're further ahead in the world. And I think people take this and they can get off those medications. They're so happy because it's hard to get Adderall, first of all, in our country anymore. And if they can take a natural product that gets rid of their anxiety and they can feel better and they can focus, boy, we've made a big winner with patients. And I think the same thing's going to be seen with the dementia. We've added some other products, some nicotinamide and some NAC to help some of the brain development for the dementia patients. But I think we're going to see a lot of improvement in dementia as we start using it in more and more patients at that age.
Interesting. Yeah. And personally, I've seen people around me who had ADHD and who definitely are doing better.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Where they don't need to take the medication and they seem to be, functioning better. Yeah. So it obviously works. What about potential for like habituation? Like, when people take Adderall over time, their brain receptors start to not respond as well anymore. Does this happen to methylene blue?
We haven't seen any tolerance to it. We start out some on our pills at 2 a day up to 4 a day. We've not seen anybody, I've not had any patients since I've been using it for over a year say they needed to use more and more. And and you stop at cold turkey, you don't get the withdrawal. There's no withdrawal effects from it. So we've not seen any first tolerance buildup and no indication of any addiction with it. And people can take it or leave it without any of that, withdrawals that you get from coming off of Adderall. So I think that's the nice thing. And like I said, the tolerance part, we've not seen anybody getting intolerance to it. It's still going in and doing its job, helping the mitochondria improve themselves. And so we've not seen any tolerance to it. Have you, Dan, seen anybody?
No, we haven't. In fact, we've actually seen people doing better. Better outcomes, because it's when we're taking other medications, a lot of times there's other, side effects. With the methylene blue and the combination of some things, we're seeing a lot of side benefits. So we're getting mitochondrial health, right? And that's actually showing up in not just in brain and focus, but in body energy. The whole system starts working better because we have mitochondria in every cell of our body except for red blood cells. So it's helping everywhere. And that's kind of the difference. There's a lot of side benefits that we're talking about that we experience. So really, you're not dependent on it. You can go on it, have it, during the week, go off it on a weekend if you just need that beauty of ADD, right? Because there is beauty in that, right?
There is. All entrepreneurs are like that.
We're creative, but there's times you just have to focus. And I know because I'm in that category. But we get so many people, and we get a lot of, we talk about different outcomes, and these are things that we see in testimonials, which are fantastic. But people have to experience for themselves. But just to share a little bit, we have a lot of people that come back and go, oh my gosh. And this could be bad for husbands, but we had one that came back and said, boy, his memory is so much better. He's listening to me. He's actually, following through on things. Or just like what Dr. Warren talked about, they're able to finish tasks and do things and remember things. And so, we think about as we get old, we're always told, don't worry, it's natural to forget. It's not. We need to keep our mind sharp. And this is one of the ways that we can stay sharp and not just go, we're told just grow old gracefully. Well, there's no need to grow old gracefully. It's keep that cognitive, enhancement as much as possible. And it is really a cognitive booster.
Yeah, that's right. Just look at some of the people who lived over 100 years old and sharp as tack, right? So
that's right.
That's what you can be and you should be. So, and it's nice that we actually have tools to help with that. What about autism? Have you had any experience with autism?
Dan,
yes.
Tell your stories, then I'll tell mine. So
yes, okay. We have people that have been using it with great success as far as with autism. Again, autism is considered to be one of those that is a mitochondrial dysfunction or something sustaining from mitochondrial dysfunction. But just in alertness and in cognitive awareness of kids that are all the way down to as young as 3 that are taking it, putting it in their drinker and water, and they're using it on a regular basis, and they're seeing a great improvement. And this is on many that are in the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, we hate to say that they can, talk or do other things, but we've seen some reports back that the kids are talking, they're focusing better in class, they're not so fidgety, and that makes a big difference on their self-pride, and then they just do better. So we haven't done much. We're still learning in that category, but the reports that we've had coming back to us have been just amazing. I'm really happy to hear these parents are very happy, seeing that benefit with their kids.